Well, good afternoon, everybody, and thanks for joining us again today in our Chamber Update Show. Today, I am joined with Kelly Fox from Portia Planning and Wealth Management. But most of you know Kelly Fox from all of the hard work and things that she's done for many, many years with Christmases for Kids and the Attleboro Interfaith Collaborative. Kelly, welcome.
Well, thank you. Nice to be here.
Thanks for joining me today. Today we're going to talk about mortgage forbearance. And during this crazy time of the coronavirus, a lot of people are out of work, have been furloughed or laid off. And so there's some serious financial decisions that have to be made. And Kelly has offered to come on and help us a little bit. So Kelly, I've got a few questions for you, but first tell us a little bit about you.
Other than being with the Council for Children and volunteering with Christmases for Kids, I've been a financial advisor for this is my 27th year here in Plainville, and I just love working with all of my clients. This has been a little bit of a challenge over the last couple of months, but I think we've weathered it as best as we can.
Yeah, it's people are just very confused of what to do, how to handle their investments, how to handle the financial decisions that have to be made during this crazy time. So let's get off. And first off, what is a mortgage forbearance?
Well, essentially, it's an opportunity to pause your mortgage payments. And I think the most important thing for people to keep in mind around this is that it really is just a pause. These payments are not being forgiven. The CARES Act, which I'm sure everybody's heard a little bit about, is really focused on folks who are facing hardship because of the COVID-19. And specifically around the mortgage forbearance, it will give 180 days of this mortgage pause, and there's a possibility for a request of an additional 180 days. A couple of things that we should keep in mind is that there should not be any fees or penalties incurred. There isn't any additional interest added on. Everything is just deferred or accrued once you've been approved for the pause.
All right. Well, since most of us, our mortgage is our biggest bill that we all have. Would you suggest that most people try to defer paying their mortgage now, regardless of their change in income due to the virus?
Well, I think it's great temptation to hold on to that cash, isn't it? Because we don't really know what's going to happen over the next 6 or 12 months even. So I think the temptation to use it for something else is great. But if you're working and if you can manage that payment, I would say keep paying. If your income's still intact and you really do feel strongly about trying to use the forbearance feature, one of the things that you could do is maybe think about that you may have to catch up all at once or very quickly. So it depends on the type of situation that you've negotiated with your lender. Every lender is going to have a little different terms in terms of how you're going to be able to pay that back. I've heard that some lenders might take all the months that were skipped and spread it over the rest of the term of the mortgage. Others might want it all at once at the end of 6 months. So that could be very difficult for some people. So really, I think what you need to know is just be sure that you understand the terms of the payback. So when you do get started paying the mortgage again, you know what's expected of you. So let's think about it this way. If the current payment right now is tight on your budget, a new payment could be worse. Because what if they're taking those 6 months and just averaging it out over the rest of your term? That means that your new payment is going to be higher. I would suggest that you make sure that you just get everything in writing, read it over really carefully, be sure you understand what you're signing before you sign it. But if you feel really strongly about giving this a try, and you do still have your income now, then maybe use some of that money to pay down higher interest debts during the deferral period. That way, when you have the mortgage again, you might be in a better cash flow position because you've got rid of maybe credit cards or a car loan or something that maybe has been tugging at your cash flow, maybe has a higher payment, a higher interest rate. So that way, when you do have to make that slightly higher payment on the mortgage, if that's the way the lender wants to handle the catch up, then you can handle that little bit more going forward. So that's a strategy, but I would still want people to just try to continue to pay their mortgage now if they could. This really isn't the first option. And then one other thing that I'd like to just note about that too is that this deferral is specifically meant for federally backed mortgages. So that's Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, VA loans, FHA loans. So the first step is really going to be to reach out to your current lender and find out if your mortgage is federally backed. If it is, that lender should be able to help you through the process. If not, then there may be something through the state. And I actually did go out onto the state website and I wasn't able to find anything specifically when I looked, but it's being updated over and over again. So certainly your lender should know for sure whether or not you have a federally backed mortgage. If you do, then you should be able to go on with the next step. But if not, then the lender should also know what the state options should be.
Well, one of the scary things that you mentioned just a few minutes ago was that some lenders, they may go into this forbearance agreement with you, but at the end of that 6 months, they might say, okay, I need all those payments right now.
Right.
And if you're struggling financially, that would just kill a lot of people.
It really would. That's why I think that this needs to be kind of the last resort. Certainly it shouldn't affect your credit, but the idea of if you're having a tough time right now, making your mortgage payments 6 months from now to have to come up with 6 months worth of mortgage payments, that's just going to be worse.
Yes. Well, a lot of people bundle their principal, interest, and insurance. And if they do this forbearance agreement, is everything deferred?
No, and that's actually a great question. You're absolutely right. A lot of folks really do bundle in more than just it's their principal and interest, but which the bank is going to get. But then you've got real estate taxes, homeowners insurance. Oh, let me put myself on mute here. And homeowners insurance. So the real estate taxes and homeowners insurance for sure still needs to be paid. So the only thing that's deferred is going to be principal and interest. So it's very important that folks unbundle that. They don't want to fall behind on their homeowners insurance. God forbid you get that, have that lapse. You don't want to fall behind on your real estate taxes. That's a whole other kind of problem to have. So when you're going to do this, you want to find out, again, will the bank continue to make those payments toward the real estate taxes and the insurance? Or if you defer this, do they stop making those payments on your behalf? So another reason to be sure that you really understand all the details and that you're clear as to what your responsibilities are going to be and when things are due going forward.
All right, well, let's say that somebody wants to try and use this option. What are some of the things folks can do to help them with their cash flow?
Well, I think the first step is really to reach out to the lender. So if they aren't using one of our favorite local banks, they really should try to get a hold of that phone number from their statement or their customer service. Be prepared to wait. And then try to be prepared ahead of time before you actually talk to somebody. And there are a couple of things that I found. There's actually a script that most of the lenders are going to use. And so the things that they're going to be looking for would be like a very specific description as to what your situation is as a result of COVID-19. So that could be, a reduction in hours, maybe you lost your job, someone got sick, or there's someone else in the family that was helping to pay the mortgage and is no longer able to do that. You have to be very, very specific, and you have to specifically match up why you're making the request to the virus and how this has affected you. And then I would say the most important thing is to have your statement in front of you, because you're going to ask for things like your account number, balances, maybe some other security questions, so that the first time you get on the phone with someone, you're ready to go. And they can, the process should be relatively quick and easy once you get through that first phone call, as I understand it. Something that would be probably good to add in all of this too is that once you're back at work, let's say you're off work, you're furloughed, you decide to take advantage of this, and then you're back at work in 3 months instead of taking the full 6-month forbearance. Consider getting those mortgage payments going again as soon as you're back at work and you feel like you got your feet under you again. That way, when you do have to start repaying it, it's not going to be as onerous as it might have been if you'd waited the full 6 months. And then so I would say jump back in, as soon as you can.
Well, a question that I was asked, and I wanted to ask you today, because I don't have the answer, even though I was in the mortgage business 100 years ago. Why won't a bank take the forbearance and say 3 months or 6 months and just add it to the end of the term?
I really don't know. I haven't been able to find out why every bank seems to be able to make some decisions on their own. And I don't know if it has something to do with the way the original mortgage is written. Not being a mortgage originator myself or a lender myself, I don't know. But it does seem like everywhere I read that there are lots of different ways that this could be done. So certainly my preference would be to have whatever the principal and interest is that's being paused to be added on a little bit of every payment going forward. But I'm not really quite sure why it isn't consistent from bank to bank or lender to lender.
Yeah, and that's just it. It's a good point. Every bank is a little bit different. And, as most of us know, even if you go through your original bank, a lot of times your mortgage is sold and resold in bundles. So you have to make sure that you get directly to who is holding your loan.
That's exactly right. I think that's why having this statement in front of you will be really, really helpful, because then at least there's a phone number on there, right? And you would get to hopefully the right people right from the beginning.
Okay. Now, are there other options other than deferring a mortgage right now?
Well, my concern is that if you haven't been paying your mortgage, at least right now there's a moratorium on foreclosures for 60 days. So hopefully that would buy folks some time to talk to their lender and see where they might be in terms of getting back to work or deciding on the deferral, which would give them more time. But I think that communication and where you were in the business, you could probably really speak to this, that communication is key on this.
Absolutely.
If you talk to your lender, don't let this go, because it will just get worse. If they can help you, they can help you if they don't know what's happening, if they don't know what's going on. So my concern is that for folks who've simply stopped paying their mortgage and kind of put their head in the sands, this is just going to make the whole process harder. The idea is to just give people who need some help a way to pause this big payment, keep their house, keep their credit from getting hit. Because that's the other piece of it too, is that your credit report, which everybody should pull every year, it's free in Massachusetts. So, here we are into the second quarter. If you haven't done that, you should definitely pull your credit report. But this forbearance, this pause won't hurt your credit. And I think that that's really important to know.
Yeah, that was one of the questions that I did have, because, again, I was asked, and from my experience in the mortgage business, but things have changed. I've been here at the chamber now for almost 14 years and
Wow.
been out of the business. Oh yeah, time flies when you're having fun.
I know.
But it's a very difficult time for everybody at the moment, and we're just trying to help them make their way through this, and that's why I bring on folks like yourself who know all of this stuff and is willing to share their expertise with the public and a lot of our members as well. Um, where can people get additional information to see if this does work for them?
Yeah, I would say even if you're in the decision making process, I went out onto the fanniemae.com site. It was very good. The consumerfinance.gov site is very, very good. The questions and answers on there I thought were very helpful. Also, just to the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau, they're all great resources. And I spent a lot of time on there just being prepared for today because all this is so new. We feel like we're kind of drinking from the fire hose with all of the new information. So I'm so glad to at least be able to give a little bit, hopefully of insight for people who are thinking what they need to do, because it is scary if you're out of a job and maybe your unemployment isn't catching up quite yet, and the first of the month is just behind us, and it's scary.
Yeah, and people are very concerned, and that's why I lean on folks like you who are willing to give their expertise and willing to help out and give some information because it's very confusing. And one thing that we keep saying here at the chamber when we're disseminating some information is make sure you verify where you're getting your information from, because there's a lot of false things that are being said out there, things that might scare you away from not reaching out to your lender and having a conversation with them. That's probably one of the most important things that Kelly mentioned is reach out to your current lender before it gets out of control. Let them help you wade through this situation so you don't end up in a difficult situation with your lender. Kelly, is there any other tips that you'd like to share with them?
In terms of the forbearance, I think you hit it right on the money there. Just have the conversation. So really, I think look carefully at your cash flow. One of the things that the conversations I've had over and over again over the last couple of months with folks, as people are starting to think about where their, how the market may have changed their retirement date, may have changed as their day-to-day cash flow. Really think about the nice to have, the have to have. I think that, we're all looking at our cash flow very specifically, and this may be a really good tool. But look carefully at your cash flow and make sure that if this helps for the short term, that you can manage what's going to happen afterwards. That's really my biggest concern with all of this.
Yeah, because you don't want to set yourself up, for a bad end game when this is all over, because it's going to be over. We are going to get through this. It's a very difficult time, and we're hoping that the banks and lending institutions will be, cognizant of the struggles that people have. One thing that I will suggest is when you do call, have a little patience. When you're speaking to the customer service reps or your lender, just remember that there are literally millions of other people in the same position that are asking questions. And I know we're stressed. I know we're afraid of what might happen, but take a deep breath. And as Kelly mentioned, be prepared when you get on the phone, so you don't get exasperated when they start asking you, account numbers, security stuff. Just be a little bit prepared for that. Kenny,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say the other thing that concerns me is that there are, believe it or not, already there are scammers out there, and that was one of the things that I did happen to see. So I'd like to just have people please be careful not to fall victim. I don't think that banks at this point are calling out, looking for your information. They're not trying to tell you that you qualify for this. The best way to safely apply is for you to call your lender and go through the process. If you're talking to somebody and they're charging you fees, asking you to sign over, I'm trying to think, one of the scams we heard about was they were trying to get people to sign the land title over. They want credit card numbers. I mean, it's really shameful. But it's avoidable. So if you call your lender, you're not going to run into this, but you may start to get phone calls in, and those are the people who are trying to take your money and not really help you.
You know, if all these scammers would use their brains for good, this whole world would be in a lot better shape.
You are so right.
Well, before we go, I got a kind of an off the subject question for you.
Sure.
Tell us about Ameriprise National Day of Service and how we and our friends, can help and participate.
Well, what we've been doing the last several years for the National Day of Service in June is to do a food collection, and we're actually looking at how we can safely do that again, because one of the things that I've always worried about are the kids who are on federal and reduced free lunch, and then school is out, and how are they getting fed? And I'm sure a lot of people have heard about the programs going on in all the local communities that are making sure that kids are fed through the end of the school year, but we're going to run into the same problem as we get into the summer. So we want to be sure that the children are fed. And, our community has been wonderful. The last 4 years when we've had the food drive through my office, we've collected over 10,000 servings of food that's helped to feed kids on playgrounds all summer long. I'm so proud of that. So we will be doing that again. And as we get closer and can figure out the safest, best way to do that food collection, we'll certainly keep you in the loop. But if folks want to keep that in mind, that would be fantastic.
Kelly, you have been a huge positive force in our community for a long time.
Thank you.
And we want to say thank you. Just a couple quick things on the chamber, folks. We are having a parade on Friday at 3:30 of all the local business vehicles that are willing to join us around Sturdy Hospital to say thank you to the hardworking staff at Sturdy, the doctors, the nurses, the admin staff, everybody that's inside. Our Young Professionals Organization last week and for the next 2 days are asking for donations of snack foods that we can deliver to the hospital that a doctor or a nurse can grab on the run. Some crackers, some peanuts, some mixed nuts, fruit, anything that's individually packaged. And we're collecting them here at the chamber office. But if you'd like to join us, if you don't have a company vehicle and you want to just come and stand on the sidewalk and cheer on and wave us on, we're doing this in partnership with Kevin Cryan over at Cryan Landscape. Kevin has gone way above and beyond. He's called all the local businesses as well as we have. But you'll see some more stuff coming in support of the staff at Sturdy Hospital. Just want to give that quick plug. But Kelly Fox, thank you very much for coming on the show today. And folks, if there's anything that you think we can do, please reach out. We're the United Regional Chamber of Commerce, 508-316-0861. We're here to help you. We're trying to keep everybody informed, and that's what we're using all of our social media for right now. Every update that we get from the state, from any of the mandates, the openings that we're doing, please check us out on social media. We'd love to help you out. Once again, one last shout out to Dave Angel and the folks over at AACS for putting on this show, and we really appreciate everything that they do for our communities.
See ya.
Everybody be safe.